e-tolls in place and the petrol price going up at midnight, road users are being hit hard. We take a look at the economic impact of e-tolls. Davy Root, Director and Chief Economist at the Efficient Group, is with us. I loved the piece you wrote about it today, Davy, and particularly the conclusion. This is an example of how to cock things up. Not polite language, but I guess pretty apt.
Yeah, I think they did everything as wrong as possible. I think clearly what stands out for me is that our political leadership, that there are some questions that need to be answered. Let me give you a simple example. There were numerous court cases, but one of these court cases, just before the court delivered its verdict, the ANC, nogal, and COSATU said that they were against the toll roads, and then the courts also stopped the tolls at that stage. So, but how is it possible that the ANC, the ruling party, which actually implemented the toll roads, are against the tolls at one stage? So clearly, there was a serious lack of political leadership in this whole process.
Well, the feedback, I was watching various these TV channels this morning, particularly E-News, and they were looking around and talking to various people. The traffic cop for Johannesburg said the roads are in chaos outside of the e-tolls, and the e-tolls are very quiet. Then you talk to the politicians who were interviewed, the MEC for Gauteng, who said everything is running smoothly. So perhaps nothing's really been learnt about this.
Well, you know, I was on the roads this morning. My impression is we don't really know what's going on. I can't really come to some sort of conclusion because the schools are closing down. It was fairly easy, the roads. It
were
was
you on
busy.
A toll road or a
No, I was on a toll road. Mm-hmm. I do not have one of these tags, by the way.
So you were on a toll road without a tag?
Without a tag.
Well, the people who haven't bought tags, who are scared of having to go to court or being fined, weren't on the toll roads. That's why it was easy for you.
Yeah, I guess so. But there were one or two hiccups on the roads. It wasn't plain sailing all the way. But I'm not going to break any laws. I'm going to wait for them to send me normal, correspondence.
But aren't you breaking law by not
having a tag? No, you're not allowed. There's no law forcing you to buy an e-tag. And remember, the moment you buy an e-tag, they've got access to all your bank particulars. And I promise you, there is going to be an increase in the toll levy within a year or two, whatever, and one could expect that because of inflationary reasons. And then you have got access to your bank accounts, and I mean, how easy is that going to be? So I'm not going to buy the tag. I'm going to wait for Sanral to send me a proper list. I have to prove that it's going to be my car, and then eventually I will have to pay for that, and I will pay for it. I'm a law-abiding citizen. But what I think is happening here, the reason for this huge outcry against the tolls, it's not really about the tolls. I think there's something else going on.
What?
And that has to do with taxes, basically. Because, if you look at what's been happening in the fiscal, with our taxes the last couple of decades, the last 2 decades or so, in fact, more than that, the taxes just kept on going up and going up. And especially the last, say, 15 or 20 years or so, government expenditure are spent basically on two things. On current expenditure, which includes social expenditure, and of course, that's very voter-friendly, social expenditure items. But they're also supposed to spend on capital. And you and I, we've been getting used to this, that we pay our taxes, and part of the taxes is used to maintain the capital and to invest in new capital.
The old story about consumption expenditure versus capital expenditure was always broken out in the budget.
One can expect the state to spend more on social. I accept all the social reasons and all that. But the thing is, in the meantime, what happened is that we did not look after infrastructure. Eskom is an excellent example. The whole thing fell apart, and only when there were blackouts all over the place that we really start realizing, listen, we didn't invest enough in Eskom. The same is happening to the roads to an extent. But in the meantime, that money has been earmarked for something else now. So all of a sudden, the money is not there anymore. Now we need more resources. And the tolls is nothing but a privatization of an additional tax, a new tax. And what we're seeing today is a tax revolt. That's what we're seeing.
A tax revolt. Before we go more into that tax revolt story, I was under the impression that when our petrol price was being taxed, that the money that was being generated in that way should have been used for the roads.
Initially, we had something called a road fund. So we had the fuel levies, and the fuel levies were earmarked specifically for infrastructure, especially road investments. Now, like all taxes, and this is something that happens all over the world, if there's a specific tax, the politicians come to us and listen, we're going to tax A, B, and C, and we're going to use it specifically for this and that. But what happens is, as time goes by, there's a spot of money, a spot of honey lying there, and then they start running out of money somewhere else, the politicians, and then they change the law and they make it part of the bigger pot. And exactly that is what happened to the so-called road fund. So the fuel levy is not earmarked anymore for road infrastructural investment is just part of the pot. It's like the income taxes or company taxes or the sin taxes or whatever. It just goes into this one big pot now. So now we've used this money for something else now, and now we need extra money.
Well, Dawie, we're going to be picking up more on the subject in a moment, but joining us on the line to explain how the e-toll system is handling its first day is Nazir Ali, who's the Chief Executive of SANRAL. Nazir, are you a happy or not so happy man today?
Well, it's not a question of whether I'm happy or not happy about the thing. We are very pleased to note that the system is working. It has been well tested, and that people are using the system.
But lots of people aren't.
Well, I don't think you have the numbers to say that lots of people aren't. We have. Let me explain this to you. We have about 1 million users every day. Of this 1 million, just under 800,000 have already registered.
And today, just give us an understanding of, on a normal day on the toll roads, or what are now toll roads, what the usage was like and what it's been like today.
Okay, look, we have seen that there's been a bit of a drop in traffic, right? I haven't got the actual numbers. That we'll only analyze later on. But what I do believe is happening is that people are doing what I want to term a cost-benefit analysis for themselves. Some will be using the alternative routes to see whether that is more economical for them to use or not, or whether to use the toll road. Because all of our studies have shown, including that of the Road Freight Association, that it is more economical to use the toll road than to use the alternative toll roads and, face the congestion, the additional wear and tear on your car, and the fuel cost, etc.
Certainly when I was listening this morning to the head of the local traffic cops talking, she was saying that there was great congestion outside of the e-tolls. Less people were using the old toll roads, more people were using alternative routes. Do you think this is just a knee-jerk and that eventually everyone is going to come into line?
Look, I don't think it's a knee-jerk. I think that's what I was saying just said a moment ago, is that I think people are doing a cost-benefit analysis for themselves. And once they've done their own analysis and they actually see the benefits, it has been stated in the various studies that people will come back to using the toll road.
And if they can't afford to?
Well, I mean, look, first of all, we've shown that 83% of the road users, right? 83% of the road users will pay no more than 100 Rand a month. But that is the option that you have. You're either going to pay for the use of the toll roads and enjoy the greater benefits, or you're going to be stuck in congestion. A study in 2007 done by the AA showed that we were spending 40 hours a month, 1 whole week a month, being stuck in the traffic. The second study had shown that we were losing 15 million rands a day being stuck in traffic. So one way or the other, people will have to bear the cost in terms of the toll road. It is far more beneficial to use the toll road than to use alternative road.
Nazir Ali is the Chief Executive of SANRAL. Well, you heard what Nazir had to say.
A lot of sympathy with him. I think the last couple of years must have been quite difficult for him, because then the toll roads were on, then they were off, then there was political pressure. We didn't know what the price is going to be for the toll roads. It took us really quite some time, and in the meantime, we do not have all the information. I would like to know really what's going on within those transactions. Who billed it, who's going to get the benefits, what the collection costs are.
But some of that's confidential.
We don't know.
Some
But
of that's
why?
confidential information.
Why should that be
Well,
confidential?
I'm asking you, why?
I'm the taxpayer, I'm the user, it's a public project. Of course I should have total access to that. Remember, if you want to determine the price of beer, it's quite easy, because you've got brewers and you've got consumers. It's a supply and demand thing, and like many other products in the economy out there. But in the case of a public good or a so-called collective good, like for example, a toll road, there are not 2 toll roads between Johannesburg and Pretoria where I can pick one or the other. I only got one. And that means that the rules behind it is slightly different. For that reason, we need to get proper access, total access to the information behind it, the cost behind it, the costing behind it, to see what the collection costs are and the like. And I don't care if foreigners are making money out of this, but I want to know it is fair. And since it's confidential, I don't know. And knowing our government, there's always something that they're hiding somewhere. I've got some questions and I wonder what is really going on in those numbers. I want to add total. And in fact, the way I understand it is that according to the Constitution in South Africa, it should be completely transparent. We are supposed to know exactly what is going on in those transactions.
So the legal challenges might not be over.
Well, the way I spoke to Advocate Paul Hoffman this morning, and he said there are going to be some significant legal challenges, and the way I understand the law behind this is that they really haven't exhausted all the possible legal issues out there yet.
So people might be using the toll roads, but in fact they could still be reversed.
Yeah,
in the future.
You know, and actually, as an economist, I realize it is so important to have toll roads. It is so important to price anything correctly in the economy, because if you do not price something correctly, then you misuse it. You don't allocate that specific resource as optimally as possible. Toll roads are good, but see what they've done now. They've undermined the benefits of toll roads by, for example, allowing taxis to use it, or buses not to use it, or actually capping the tolls, because you shouldn't cap it.
But that's politics.
I know that's politics, but they're undermining
Economists and politics don't always agree. But Davy, thank you for giving us those insights. And that was Davy Ruot, the Director and Chief Economist of the Efficient Group.